Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek the original series, Season 3, Episode 10. It is called Plato's Stepchildren. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. Um, we had a good episode last week. It was a pleasant return episode after a month and a half of not recording any. It was a
Yeah, yeah, it was.
nice welcoming episode back. This episode, not so much.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I feel like there's some genuine ideas behind it all that could be great. You know, just the idea of willpower and what freedom really means, and the idea of torturing McCoy by humiliating Spock and Kirk. Like that idea sounds great.
Yeah, it's just wrapped up in boring, ridiculous, stupid stuff.
I would go as far as say embarrassing stuff.
I would agree.
It's silly. It's a very silly episode. And I believe this is the famous, the first ever interracial kiss on TV episode. Unless I'm forgetting about another kiss that happened before this one.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because Kirk and Uhura kiss. Not by choice, they're forced to kiss. Because this episode revolves the crew, well, the main three at least, going down to a planet.
Just because?
I think it was a distress call because he was sick, they wanted a doctor.
Yeah, but we just kind of drop in on it.
We just kind of drop in. It turns out the people here who base their entire society after Plato, because they were from another planet originally. They went to Earth during the time of the Greeks, Socrates and Plato, and they loved that so much that when they left and came to their own planet here, they formed their entire society after it. Again, another excuse, I'm sure, to use costumes from a different TV show.
Yeah, I'm sure we've done this before. This feels. I feel like we've done Greek already, but I remember
We
like the
have.
Napoleon one.
We so have. I'll be shocked if we haven't done Greek already.
I'm sure we've done Greek at some point.
But they have telekinesis, so
Yeah.
that's the thing of the episode. They have telekinesis, and except the dwarf character, the little guy, Alexander. He can't. He's basically the jester who they pick on and torture and make basically he's basically the slave, and he tries to help Kirk and Co out at times, but their telekinesis is so good, they're so strong. The main guy, Parman, he can just like force people to move. I did question a little bit when he started making them sing and talk, because I felt like, okay, we're actually going to do more of a psychic thing here than it is just because before it was just physical and it was just moving them around.
I could. I guess the best I could do is that fine tuned. He can manipulate the vocal cords.
Okay, all right.
That's the best I can do.
Because he's the most powerful out of the society here. There's like 38 people, and they've been living for thousands of years. Eventually, we find out it's the food on this planet that gives them the power. Alexander doesn't have the power. He's the only one who doesn't, and it turns out the same biological reason that stops him from growing is the same thing that stops him from developing the power, and that's why he doesn't.
I will say I thought was a little weird because the woman tells us, "Oh, we had this really strict eugenics program. That's why we're basically immortal." I'm like, "So you did all this, but you left this guy with dwarfism?" I mean, it's a bit of a dick move, isn't it?
I think they did that before they left their own planet, and then they brought him from Earth, or something like that.
Okay. Then how's he lived so long?
Because he said, "Oh, they brought me along with them." Well, maybe it's the food here is what makes him immortal. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, and I was
I
under
don't
the
know.
impression that it was the eugenics program that
Maybe
made
it is.
them
Yeah.
immortal.
If that's the case, then I don't know. Unless it just means that they decided to bring him along with that.
Well, it could be, yeah.
Because if he was already a dwarf, then
Yeah,
it might not have been queuing it. It's just, oh, but now he's immortal, like us. Or,
it could be, yeah.
well, I don't know if they're immortal, but I mean, 2,300 years is a pretty long time.
As good as, right?
As good as,
for all
yeah.
intents and purposes.
I love actually when the woman's like, "Oh, Spock, guess my age. I'm not vain. I'll take whatever you can guess," because she's basically making a point of saying she's looked the same for thousands of years, and he's like 35, and she's like 35. I stopped aging at 30.
She's horrified, yeah.
That made me laugh. Because the good ideas in here is just like after we have this and it's a very long scene of when he does humiliate Spock and Kirk, and he makes them dance, because it just turns into this scene of them dancing and singing and spinning around each other, and then eventually they bring in Alexander, and they have Kirk in all fours, and Alexander's on Kirk's back, riding him like a horse. And I'm like, what am I watching? What is this episode?
Yeah,
What's
why
happening?
am I watching this?
And after all this happens, when Kirk and Co are alone again in like a, it's not a cell, it's just a room, but they're locked in, the prisoners. They're talking about it, and Spock is basically talking about how he's really. This was the most interesting scene in the episode for me. Is Spock was angry, and he didn't know how to let it out. Like, because he's like, because he's asking Kirk, "Are you angry?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm furious. I even feel hatred right now." And he starts talking about the release of human emotions and how, yeah, you see it as healthy to let them out, but I've also witnessed that if you let them out too often, it's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to deal with the fact that he's angry about what has been made of him, that he's been made a fool. Because the guy makes Spock laugh. We see him laughing and smiling and like,
Yeah, that was a little bit weird when McCoy was like, "Oh no, you do that, you'll kill him." I'm like, right. I mean, and I know he's Vulcan and he doesn't really do the emotions, but he was like, "Oh, you make him laugh too long and it'll actually kill him because he's Vulcan because he doesn't know how to do emotions." I was like, that was a bit of a weird leap.
Unless that was always canon and we just didn't know about it.
I mean, maybe.
I don't know.
But
because the whole thing is that they want McCoy to stay behind because they never had a need for a doctor before. They had this infection. McCoy, cured it pretty easily. Well, I say easily. There was a small moment where his telekinesis was going nuts while he was unconscious, and it was like throwing things around the room. The Enterprise itself was like starting to like have turbulence and all sorts.
I thought that was a nice idea because as soon as they asked them, "Oh, do these stop when you're asleep? Does it stop being active?" And she was like, "No, it's still there." And I was like, "Okay, so while he's unconscious from the the drugs, it's still just gonna go haywire." Yeah. And I thought, okay, that's a nice idea to play with. It's it's a classic, but it's just the one little moment and that's it.
Pretty much. So they want McCoy to stay. He obviously doesn't want to. And it's basically just about trying to torment him enough and torment his friends so that he'll eventually agree. And eventually they bring down Uhura and Nurse Chapel. I guess the second most interesting thing is when they make Spock sing a song, like serenade them, which is stupid on its own. But I did get a little, not entertainment per se, but there was a little character moment where like Chapel was clearly like she has feelings for Spock. This is long established, and this was kind of affecting her because she almost like likes this, but she knows it's not real, so it's more upsetting than it is pleasing. So there was like a mix of emotions there. I think I was okay, right? So that's playing upon the actual established Nurse Chapel feelings, and then he makes Spock kiss her with his powers, and same with Kirk and Uhura. Of course, the big plot point is that he's making them do this, and then he brings out like torture instruments, like a hot iron, a whip, and I'm like, okay, this episode's getting really weird. Like he's going to make Kirk and Spock like torture the two female officers. This is bizarre. But the important plot point is that they sussed out what gives them the powers, and McCoy injects both of them with a potent dose of it. Hopefully, he's not sure if it'll take weeks to kick in though. Like it may take a while. But obviously we're expected to kick in when they need it most.
Pretty quickly, yeah, obviously.
And Alexander actually tries to sneak around with a knife and tries to kill Perman, but someone else catches him and stops him with their powers. And then he's going to make Alexander like stab himself in the neck. He's going to make him slit his own throat. This is actually really dark for a Star Trek episode.
It is, amongst all the stupidity.
It's almost a shame the rest of it's so stupid because you could do something with this.
I almost feel like they thought we better go with some really light, fluffy stuff just to balance it out.
Maybe it kind of betrays the point of the episode.
Yeah,
I feel
it feels just a tonal mess.
I think that's the real shame of it is that the core ideas of like the fear of someone this powerful and like how do we get around that and like the torturing of like Spock and Chapel and like sort of playing with their relationship and like forcing it out into the open. Like there's things here that are okay ideas to do things with. There's nothing necessarily inherently wrong with that. But we have a little person riding on Kirk's back while he's on all fours, as if he's a horse. Like we have that scene too.
Yeah.
And they're about to, and they're trying to stop their hands from moving to killing him. And that's when Alexander tries to kill Perman. Then he's going to make Perman slit his own throat. And that's when Kirk tries to will Alexander's hand down again, and he does, and everyone's like, "Who did that? Who stopped him from doing this?" And Kirk's like, "It was me." And then it becomes this battle between them of, they're basically using Alexander as like a prop, because he's like got the knife and he's like turning around.
Yeah,
like,
a little bit of a tug of war.
He's a tug of war, yeah. But with him as a loving person as the rope.
Yeah.
And then it ends kind of weird where they basically just promise, "Oh, I understand that we've been kind of it's like draconic here, and we'll change.
We
We'll be
won't
nice.
do it again."
And
they went, "Yeah, you will do it again. As soon as we're gone and you're not scared anymore, you'll be back to it."
Mm-hmm. And then
so we'll take Alexander with us.
Yes, and then they threatened him again. He's like, "Okay, no, I promise. Okay, I believe you now. There'll be regular checkups," and they just leave. That's it. They almost made them torture, potentially kill 2 of their officers, and almost made Alexander commit suicide. And it's just like, okay, you've been warned. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
It was really weird. The ending was bizarre to me. I don't know what to say about it.
Do you know what for me might have been one of the stupidest scenes of the episode as well?
I've not mentioned your stupidest scene already. Jeez.
No. When they get summoned, and they're trying, they're being controlled to walk towards them, and they're all trying not to walk and do it. So you've got this weird thing where they're walking forwards but leaning backwards and stumbling all over the place. And
it's really silly.
Oh my god, it's awful.
So much of the episode is them pretending that there's someone like not telepathically, telekinetically try to pull them somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're just pretending. There's a moment that actually made me laugh out loud. It's during the all fours like humiliation scene, which again goes on quite a long time because there's the dancing first, and then there's the Spock stuff that kind of wipes him out. He ends up over to the side, kind of just on the ground, like sort of like in pain, and it's during this part where it puts Kirk on all fours, and then Alexander comes in and goes on his back. During this, I was paying attention to Spock in the background, and it works in character because of what Spock just went through, but I really feel like I was looking at Leonard Nimoy, just looking like he was like, "What are we doing on this show? Like, can we leave? Can we cancel this episode, please? This is stupid as shit."
Yeah. Can I go home?
He just looked like destroyed morally. He was ready to be done. Like he just looked, you could see it in his eyes, the cold dead eyes of Leonard Nimoy watching this ridiculous scene play out in front of him.
Poor bastard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty rough episode. Like I say, there's potential in there. There's things that I can say that I like in terms of the ideas, but so much of it is this stupid pretending to like be pulled or whatever.
I know.
So
it's just a mess.
I unfortunately I can't really give it much more positivity than that.
Just most of the season's still to go.
Hey, this is 10 down. 12 left. That's not bad, bro. Just about
10.
halfway.
I thought it was 9.
That's 10.
Oh, okay. That's slightly better than I thought then.
Yeah, we're fine. When we get to the movies, it'll be good. There's probably a couple of good episodes still left.
I mean, I'd hope, because we've already had a couple, and there can't be that many left.
Given the season's reputation, that's fair. But no, so pretty bad episode. Very silly in places. It's kind of embarrassing to watch at times. And I can't help but feel that not so much. I mean, I'm sure McCoy felt embarrassed just standing around, but Spock and Kirk specifically have to do so much stupid shit in this episode that I can't imagine they weren't just feeling miserable in the days they were shooting this.
Yeah, I don't know how you can take yourself seriously as an actor. When you show up at work and do this shite.
No, well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely. So, some of it, because like obviously like, when they're pretending the ship's being like hit and they're all like shaking around and stuff, like there's stuff that does actually like it feels stupid when you're on set doing it, but it actually works in the final.
Yeah, it's part and parcel.
Work, right? That's just something that I think you get used to as an actor, is that some of this stuff works out okay. I think the moment where that breaks in this episode is when it is the all fours scene, because there's nothing that's going to make this all fours like crawling around with Alexander on his back.
You can't save that.
There's nothing that they're going to do to that makes it work in the final episode. So I just can't imagine them having a good morale on the set that day.
You just feel embarrassed, wouldn't you?
Also, can I point out the awful pun at the end before Kirk beams up? Because Alexander's coming along because he wants to leave this planet. And he's talking to Scotty. Kirk's on the comms with Scotty. He's like, "Hey, Scotty, I've got a small surprise. There's a passenger coming with us." And I'm like, really, a small pun? Are we really doing that?
I mean, to be fair, went all episode. I think that was the first one, right?
Well, what was strange because I actually respected that at one point, even though this has been kind of Star Trek's mantra, for the whole show. There was like a scene in here where he flat out said to Alexander, "No, where we come from, it doesn't matter what size, shape, or color you are. Everyone is equal." I'm like, oh, that's a nice sentiment. It's nice to just hear that because I feel like it's the '60s. I don't expect TV shows to be as blatant with that kind of messaging.
No, I agree. So. They just really bluntly just say it, right?
Yeah. Obviously, these days we wouldn't bat an eye. So if anything, these days that's a bit too on the nose.
Yeah.
be subtle about it.
Yeah, but at the time it's like no, you're not really said it to this extent.
Yes.
Ever.
So that was a nice moment to hear him say it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, rough episode, really silly, really silly and embarrassing. But hey, we'll be back next week with hopefully something a bit better. We'll see. We'll find out.
Hoping, yeah.
We'll find out. But yeah, so that's been Star Trek. That's episode 10 of season 3. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us in the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. It's worth doing. There's links over there to all the various shows we do, both on YouTube and the audio feeds for all those shows. Obviously, we'd love for you to support us over there. Even $1 is fantastic and is better than, say, the money we'd make off like the ads on YouTube. If you watch those. That said, if you can't do that, watch the ads on YouTube. Like, comment, all that stuff. All of it helps. All of it is good support. And check out the bonuses over there as well. But yeah, here's something we don't do a lot at the end of these shows that I feel like I should start doing. Is picking just one other thing we do to sort of promote, like just an example of something else. So I think just in try to tie it into Star Trek in some way, we do a weekly show, 121 in Flux, me and Connor, where we talk about a movie from the past, and quite often it'll be a sci-fi movie, if to just sort of tie it into Trek. So, in fact, this the next episode we're going to be doing is The Thing. So that's quite a big, famous movie, specifically.
And the last one, I think, was a Godzilla movie.
No, it wasn't. It was AVP.
It was, yeah.
Alien vs. Predator.
I'm thinking of, the one before.
Yeah, you're thinking of the last one that wasn't terrible. That's what you're thinking of.
Pretty much, yeah. I've already... I think we recorded that AVP, 3 or 4 days ago, and I've already wiped it from my mind.
I think you have. Don't worry, it'll all come flooding back when we do AVP 2.
Yeah.
Because that's coming. But hey.
Still sci-fi, though. So point stands.
That is true. But often it'll be older movies. It's typically not new releases at the very least, and then sometimes it will be classics. Sometimes it'll be B movies. Sometimes it'll be whatever.
Shite.
We do a lot of different things. But that is that. So that's 1.21 in Flux. So check that out if you're interested. But that's us. So thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek and sci-fi and space shows, and we'll see you next time.